Welcome to the next session of Transitioning into Retirement. We're going to be talking about creating more meaningful fulfillment and fun in your life. And with me today is Anja Sassenberg-DeGeorgia, who is a lovely lady. She is the author of the recently released book, On the Edge of Something Bigger. And as a coach, speaker, and workshop facilitator, she helps others create amazing and fulfilling next chapters in their lives. Anja was born in Germany, and after finishing graduate school and spending a year in France, she moved to the United States. She spent several years in the financial industry, working as a financial planner and a stockbroker before becoming a life coach and a certified meditation teacher. She's a public speaker, and she founded her own company called Forward Life Coaching. Anja offers one-on-one coaching and leads workshops on topics that empower individuals to reinvent themselves. And she works with clients in the US, Mexico, and Europe. Welcome, Anja.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for having me and including me in this symposium.
Great. You and I share something, and that is a dislike for the word retirement. You call it third life. And you know, to me, the retirement is all, it connotes so much negativity, negative stereotypes. And but your third life is full of opportunities. So, but sometimes people have trouble seeing those opportunities. And so as they transition in, it seems like this world is more dark than it is bright and full of opportunities. How do you help people? What's the process you use to help people understand and awaken those opportunities?
Yeah, great question. When I first started teaching workshops in the community 5 years ago, I went out and I taught 10 different topics, all the different areas that we need to reinvent to create this fulfilling, amazing next life stage for ourselves. And talked about spirituality, creativity, relationship, health, relationship with money, how you want to be in your space. But what I found after a couple of years, that in the end, it really boils down to 3 choices you need to make. And I've summarized them in a visual. So I'm going to share this one visual here real quick. So basically, as you can see here, the 3 choices that I organized a very simple, user-friendly process around that I just published in my book a couple months ago, is that initial first choice is what's going to be your attitude and your beliefs around this whole next life stage. What do you believe is true about these next couple decades of your life? If you look at it as just finishing a couple years after your real life is over, you're going to have a very different experience than if you look at the next couple decades as a time of really new growth and new discovery. So that's the first choice. The next big choice, and most people are aware of this one, you need to choose a handful of activities that are really aligned with your personal highest values. And then the last piece, and again, that's something to my knowledge nobody has published about, is how do you want to manage your time and your personal energy? What type of routines will serve you? What rhythm to your days and weeks and seasons is going to give you personally the most satisfying experience? So this visual is in my book. It's also a free download on my website if you're interested in this. So I invite encores to create this one-page vision just for the next 90 days of their lives, and then use that one page to come back to on a weekly basis.
That's great. And thank you for sharing that visual, because it is so crystal clear. Let's start with the first one, attitudes and beliefs. One of the things that you talk about is how important language is. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, language is so important, especially right now, I think, because we live in a really unique period of time right now of human history. We're in the middle of a longevity revolution. Life expectancy has more than doubled since 1880. If you look at photos of your parents and grandparents at your current age, And I invite you to do that. Most people find that they are much younger than the people that they see in these photographs. So this is a trend that's been going on for a while. And I think we've just crossed a tipping point in history where we're really aware of that youthfulness in our 60s and 70s. So to me, it just makes sense to live in an empowered, positive way, to use language that reflects this new possibility. The word retired contains the word tired. That's not what my clients are. So I like the word third life. It's very dynamic. And I replaced the word retiree with encore. But I invite all my clients to come up with their own language that really resonates. Could be renaissance or renewment or refirement or my time, just anything that's energetic and fun.
Yes, and not retirement.
Not retirement, definitely not retirement. No,
there are just too many stereotypes when you say it. You know, and the word is from the French word, as I'm sure you know, that it's about withdrawing, and this is not a time to withdraw.
Yeah.
And so the language, what I think you're saying is that the language that we use to describe our lives and ourselves is important. Are we talking about, that's a senior moment? Or are we saying, I'm just getting old? Or are you saying, well, okay, my knee hurts a little bit, but the other one's fine? So, so how do you want to talk to yourself? Is there anything more that you can share with that?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult. We're up against a lot of stereotypes and jokes and perceptions. If we are not really strengthening ourselves and coming up with ways to really embrace this different way to look at this life stage, it's much harder to thrive, I think.
Yes, indeed. And you also talk about the difference between chronological age and biological age. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's another really thought-provoking and effective way to take charge of your attitude. It's to stop believing your chronological age, basically. Your chronological age is equivalent to the number of candles on your cake at your last birthday, which is pretty irrelevant, how many candles are on your cake, when you know that there's another age that you have, which is your biological age. That is the age at which you're functioning. You probably know someone in your life right now that seems much younger than the age. I had a very influential aunt, Erna, who's downhill skiing till her late 80s. And I remember as a kid seeing her walk in front of me in the pedestrian zone. And I thought, wow, she's holding herself upright. She's very flexible. And she had lots of wrinkles in her face in the 80s and 90s, but the way that she was living was so young. She exercised every day and always had fun things in her life going on that she was looking forward to. So I think it's helpful for people to lean into that. And there's a resource that I tell people to, if you're listening to this and you're interested, go to a biological age calculator online. They're free. There's one that I like. It's called biological-age.com. And go there, not only to calculate your current biological age, your functioning age, but I really like my clients to be exposed to the questions. Because when you answer the questions, yes, no, or whatever you're entering, you already know, you realize, wow, I could answer those questions differently next year and be younger next year biologically. So throw out your chronological age, don't act your age, and really take steps to lean into becoming younger biologically.
That's really great advice. And certainly, and certainly something that each of us can choose to do each and every day. It's an active choice.
Correct, yeah.
You know, so often when people move into this third life, as you call it, they enter it with this expectation that it's going to be a 25-year vacation. And that doesn't turn out to be very realistic. What's been your expectation or your experience as people adjust to this time of their life when it's not really a vacation anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just speaks directly to the perception that we have that retirement, third life, we have all the time in the world. We can do what we want to do when we want to do it. That's why we get so excited about it. But what most encores overlook is that with all that freedom comes the responsibility to figure out what you need to do to be happy on a daily basis. So my experience has been that most encores initially go through a honeymoon type of experience that feels very much like an amazing, fun vacation. You can recognize those people. They glow. They look so happy. They throw out their alarm clocks and they are just so excited in that vacation-like state. The problem is that it doesn't last. Robert actually has described specific stages people go through. I have a whole chapter on different types of transitional stages people go through. What happens after a couple weeks to 18 to 24 months at the most is that people experience a crash or a disillusionment period that can be pretty painful. You can only draw satisfaction of what you no longer do for so long. At some point, a vacation stops being a vacation and you have to figure out, what is my foundation now? What are my pursuits and dreams and wants? So I've had many people come up to me after my speeches and workshops and confide in me that they became really depressed or anxious, even suicidal. I had more than one person never see that coming. So I think it doesn't have to be that way. I know you and I have been working on the same, doing the same work to educate people that these stages are normal, and then to give people real support, give them easy, user-friendly processes to walk through, create communities where people together can do the real work of reinventing themselves, this rediscovery, which can be so much fun.
Indeed, it can. And I think one of the important things that you just said is the fact that many people don't expect this to happen, and when it happens, they think there's something wrong with them. They don't understand that it's a normal process.
Yeah, they take it personally. It just breaks my heart every time, and I just want to keep going out there and telling people this is a natural experience, and with support, this is very doable. But the first 2 to 3 years, there's a lot of personal work that's required.
That's very true. But the good news is, and the news that, the message you always send is that it is temporary, and that, yes, it's a time of reflection and a time of self-examination in many ways. But when that work is finished, the fog lifts, and then there's this beautiful world, right?
Yeah.
The second part of your paradigm is beliefs. And so what kinds of beliefs do you think harm us in our third life?
Yeah, beliefs. As coaches, we're all about beliefs. Our clients come to us in our sessions with something that they're searching for, that they're uncomfortable with, and we help them figure out, what are the beliefs driving that experience? I mean, when you think about it, beliefs are interpretations of reality that we have learned somewhere along the way and now accept as truth. So that's the last area of really working to create a positive attitude, is to become aware of this ageism that is happening inside of us, not just out there. It's well and alive inside of us, and tackle those beliefs and reconsider, what do we really think is true. But you had asked me about some of those harmful and unhelpful ones. I am over the hill is one that is really not uplifting or helpful in any way. Another one is, the relevant part of my life is over. I'm old. My real significance happened in the career stage. This is just a couple of years of doing whatever. Those are really, really harmful.
They are, and just beliefs can be shifted. You can choose to shift those beliefs. Okay, so the first part of your paradigm is attitudes and beliefs.
Correct.
And the next one is high value activities. Tell us about that.
Yeah, not everything we do in our days has the same impact for our happiness and contentment. If you think about, let's take an example. Let's say this morning from between 9 and 11, you have breakfast and you just quickly check on your smartphone the news, and you know there's a LinkedIn request, so suddenly you're on LinkedIn and you're on Facebook, and then before you know it's 11 o'clock and you just invested 2 hours of your lifetime. You gained something, some entertainment, you got some information. But if you take a different approach and you figure out what are the activities that are really meaningful to you, and maybe you found that your top values were spirituality, family, and health, and you make the decision or you set a boundary that you're not even going to go onto the news sites before lunchtime. So maybe between 9 and 11, you take your dog and you go out into nature, go for a brisk walk. You come back and maybe you spend a half hour and read some spiritual text, or you pray, or you meditate for half an hour. And then you read a book on a topic that's genuinely interesting for you. Maybe discuss it with your friends later, and then take another half hour. I'm just making this up off the top of my head here. Another half hour, you search for something really fun to do with your grandkids or your nephews and invite them. So in both scenarios, you've invested 2 hours of your time. But if you do know these high value activities, you can significantly impact how content you are. And in order to find those, what I do with clients is that I walk them through a value clarification exercise, which is also in the book if you want to go that way, and identify their top 10 values. And then think about what types of activities express those values. How would you express them so you're in alignment with those values? Just having that list is really helpful for people. I invite people to make a possibility collection, which is really fun. Take either a little notebook or a note page on your phone, and whenever you see anything in your life that seems exciting or fun, on a podcast, in conversation, in a sermon, in a movie, wherever, just write down those pieces. Think, oh, that would be so much fun. And then when you do your planning once a week or once a quarter, that you go through that list and pick out just a handful, 4 to 6 of those high value activities, and make them your primary pursuits. And then you have more of a filter to figure out what are you giving your time to. It works really well for people.
I'll bet it does. And you know, one of the things that you didn't mention in that is leisure. And the old the old version of retirement was that it was a life of leisure, as opposed to today's paradigm, which is a little bit different. So where do you see that leisure fits in?
Leisure, yeah. That's what it used to be all about, with rocking chairs and playing bingo, right?
or golf or whatever.
Or golf, yeah. I mean, the general rule for third life is that there are no rules unless you create rules. You are the one who defines success now. I think a good way to frame success is, do you have things you're really looking forward to in the morning when you get up? When you look back on your last week, were there many things that you're really glad you did? Or another litmus test that I really like is to imagine someone comes up to you haven't seen in a couple months, and that person says, "Hey, Marianne, what have you been up to?" Do you have an answer that you feel excited to share? It's that excitement. If you're excited to talk about the things that you're currently pursuing, then you're likely not in a leisure, just doing whatever kind of area, but you're really doing purposeful things. So, and that's another concept by Csikszentmihalyi, a social scientist who found that for most people, just sitting in a rocking chair and doing nothing, just doing leisure type activities is actually not what constitutes an optimal experience. For most people, again, you're the judge of it, you as an individual, it's your life, but for most people, that optimal experience comes from pursuing things where you do some type of growth, where you learn new things, you discover something, you go after dreams that you haven't had time for before, or you reconnect with things, or do for the first time things that maybe your parents didn't think were a good idea, and now you have this time.
Absolutely, and leisure certainly is part of the picture, but
Yeah.
what I hear you saying is that it's just a part, and the idea is to consciously choose the other parts of the other high value activities that you want to have in your life, that you want to put on your calendar and make sure that you do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. It really depends on how it feels for you. If you sit on a beach for 10 hours a day and you're happy as a clam and energized and feeling honestly great, then 10 hours of leisure, go for it. It is such a personal decision. This is the utmost creative time in your life ever, because you are in charge of all of it. So thank you for that additional piece. Leisure is totally okay. It's all about, do you feel truly, genuinely energized and happy?
Perfect. That's perfect. Before we were talking about chronological versus biological age, and health is certainly a part of that. And we all know we need to exercise and eat right, but are there any other things that you would advise people to make sure that they include or consider including in their routine so that they can influence their health?
Yeah. In my 10-part workshop series, the class on health and vitality was the one that I liked the least because I hate telling people what they have to do. We all know what we have to do. But I mean, the reality is this is the vehicle for our brains. Our soul lives in this physical being that we are. So yeah, I think it's important to think of health bigger than exercise and nutrition. Thanks to the MacArthur Foundational study on successful aging from the 1980s and 90s, we know that we really can influence through our healthy lifestyle choices how we age. We've learned a lot from Dan Butner and his research team who identified all the pieces from the blue zones, where people become very old and are very healthy. And the areas that they have identified is obviously exercise and nutrition, but it's also things like, how many new friends are you making? Are you getting regular and good sleep? Are you managing stress? Do you have stress management strategies? Meditation happens to be one that's really impactful on keeping our brain alive. And medical advances are moving forward rapidly. Are you getting your regular screenings, and are you following doctor's orders? I have a whole list of hacks how to make these healthy behaviors more fun. I think one big key thing to make it easier for encores is to gamify your healthy behaviors. I love 30-day challenges. Many people do. Just or using the Venn diagram approach, where you mix exercise with meeting your friends or cooking with friends. Or another one that's worked really well for my clients is to take a book that you love, something, maybe a thriller, something really suspenseful, and make an agreement with yourself that you only get to listen to this book on tape, or maybe it's a Netflix series, while you're on the elliptical or on the treadmill or while you're walking. So just make it fun and play with it, and forever look for new ways to make those healthy behaviors interesting, just energizing.
You have very creative solutions for sure. Now then, the third piece of your paradigm is time management. And you mentioned in the beginning that time management, nothing has really been published about that, and you are so right. You know, people often start their third life thinking that I don't need to worry about time management. What do you mean? That's an oxymoron in this time of my life. But is it?
Yeah, that's it. That was the biggest surprise, Marianne, for me when I was teaching. I started teaching these workshops with a list of 48 topics that I thought were relevant for encores. And I actually had my audiences vote on the next topic. They wanted me to read a bunch of books about, create content, then come back and have a conversation about them. And what my audiences wanted around time was a 3-part series where I distilled strategies that entrepreneurs use who are also in charge of a lot of time. They also define success for themselves, and strategies that people who are already really happy in their third life, what are they doing with their time? How do they manage their energy? So I think today that using time and energy management as the way to facilitate the discussion of meaning and purpose in life works surprisingly well. It's very powerful. So what I'm experimenting with now is, and actually I'm starting to do research on my next book about this, exclusively using time and energy management as a way to help encores with that reinvention process. And next week, I'm starting to teach a class with a new platform called vitality-society.com. And I'm offering a 4-part series on the top 4 time and energy management strategies that are the most impactful. And I'm happy to share them here. So the first one that's really helpful for encores from day one is to be smart about your morning. Be really intentional about creating some type of routine that makes you feel great. The next piece is mindful time containers. That's a word that I've coined. It's basically you go to work on whatever projects you have. If it's uncluttering your basement or writing a book or learning to play the piano, you give it a very specific amount of time with a start and end time, and then you celebrate at the end. Number 1 favorite time management strategy for happy encores. Again, another surprise for me. The next strategy that is really valuable for encores is to have a weekly meeting with a new boss, which is you, and do that offsite. Many people go to cafes with their spouses before church, or they have a favorite spot where they take time to really notice, what was my last week like? What did I love? Celebrate the things that were good. Connect to that big picture vision. What do I want for the rest of my life? And then from that vantage point, look ahead to the next week and see what's already there. What would be an amazing week? What would that look like? And what are the pieces I need to add? So that's the weekly review is a must. I kind of make that mandatory with my clients. And they really like it. It's really empowering, and it's a lovely ritual. And then the 4th piece is gleaned again from the entrepreneurial time management literature, is to give themes to your day. What happens for a lot of encores, if they're not really intentional, if they don't do this reinvention thinking and pondering, is that the little things that we have to do, the mundane little things like laundry and grocery shopping and food preparation and cleaning, has a way of just kind of filling the whole day. And that can feel really frustrating for encores, and they describe it as empty days, where they're busy all the time, but somehow the really fun things that they've been looking forward to for decades are not happening. So there's this paradox at work that you, in order to really embrace freedom in this life stage, the first thing is to do, you have to give up some freedom and create some routines, set up some basic rules for yourself, and create some off days that feel like weekends again, so that you can really enjoy the rest of your time. So you really take the lead for the patterns, the cadence, the rhythm of your experience in this life stage. It's really, really impactful, and I'm excited to do more research on this.
Of course, you explain it in a way that gives me a lot of enthusiasm for it, but it's so true that if you don't mindfully and intentionally set aside time that you're going to do things, they just often don't happen.
Yeah,
and email and news and everything else, and ends up, or whatever your friend calls and says, let's go do something that you don't really want to do, but you do it anyway, kind of things end up filling up your day. But when you're intentional, the way that you were describing it, then your days and your life and your weeks and your months look like what you want them to look like.
Yeah, there's a great quote from Benjamin Franklin. He said, if you want something done, ask someone busy. Don't ask someone who has a lot of time. And I think that so speaks to the dilemma that most encores struggle with. If you have this endless time, 168 hours a week, are wide open, it can become really overwhelming. You have to figure out some ways to get you moving, to get that engine going. Like, that's why the morning is so important, because in the morning we have the most energy. Really has to do not with time management, but with energy management. In the morning we have a lot of emotional, physical energy ready for us because we just rested. So that's a time to be really intentional, to get some of these basic mundane things out of the way and put a boundary around it. And say, I'm not going to give this 8 hours. I'm just going to do what I get done in an hour. I call that a power hour. And then you're done. Then you shift to a different aspect of yourself. Then you shift to the writer, or then you shift to the dog lover. It's so much fun. I'm so surprised how creativity, awareness bringing this is, just playing with these different strategies. And people usually get really afraid when I say I'm teaching time management for retirement. They think I'm telling them what to do, but that's not what I do. I'm a coach, and I don't believe that I know anything about other people. I have a lot of resources and tools, but I see my job as an educator and as a coach to show people strategies and tools that have worked really well for other people. And I invite them to try them on, like shoes in a shoe store that you're considering buying. Try them on. If you hate it, great. If you love it, also great. It's really about sorting through the different choices, and over time, it usually takes about a year. I usually work with clients about a year. They become very clear on what pieces are right for them, because it doesn't matter if it's great for Jack or for Josephine. It has to be a fit for you. So that discovery process works really well when you play with the different pieces that help you structure energy and time.
Great advice. And I'm one of those people who used to think time management, but your arguments are so compelling, and that what you're saying is so true. When people don't have a structure that they have chosen that makes sense, that makes sense in a way that enhances their life, then they're not nearly as happy as they could be.
Yeah. yeah, living below your potential. I mean, there's so many people who choose to wing it in their retirement, in their third life. And that's fine. You know, it's perfectly fine. But you do have the choice. There's this whole new field of retirement coaching that's been growing over the last 10 years. You and I are part of it. There are many great people who are dedicated to this. And you really don't have to wing it anymore. I mean, I'm always surprised in my workshops, probably 20 to 25% of people who sit there, they live amazing lives, but they're there because they want to find new things that are fun and exciting that could really work for them to do even better. I had one woman, I quoted her in my book, she just cracks me up. I'm calling her Elaine. And Elaine came to a whole bunch of my workshops, and I noticed her because she always sat in the front and she was writing notes like crazy. So after the class, I went up to her and I said, tell me about you. I'm really curious. It looks like you have a lot of things that are going well in your life. She was in her 90s, it turns out. And she said, well, I'm here because I'm looking for some great solutions for my 3 retired kids. They just need to shape up a little bit. They are just not really going for it. This is a time of opportunity and they're wasting their time. So I'm really glad I have all these notes because I'm going to go back to each of them and just give them some new things they can do.
That's hilarious.
Oh, it's so great. I want to be like her.
Yes, I agree. So anyway, before we end, any last tips, tidbits, strategies for staying engaged and enthused? Your enthusiasm is contagious for sure. What tips? What other things can you share with our listeners?
Well, I think the main thing is to just really see that you have an amazing opportunity here to live into new parts of yourself, to discover a new way to be in the world based on entirely your values and preferences, and really embrace that you're your own expert and you have to do this. Surround yourself with positive people. And maybe the last thing, you've worked really hard if you've gotten to this time in your life. Don't wing it. I spend the morning gathering my documents for my tax advisor to submit our taxes. You know, we engage lots of professionals. We have engaged lots of professionals in our lives for our finances, to fix our car, for our health. It just makes sense to get the support, read the books that are out there, that are coming out right now, engage a coach for a year, work with groups and communities to go through this process of reinvention in a really intentional way, because that's the ticket to really making this a time that is outstanding. And I believe it can be a time that's better than anything you've done before in your life before, but it requires that buy-in, that you're worth it. You're worth the investment of engaging professionals to expedite this process so you can have it be everything I believe you deserve to have at this stage.
I agree with you. So on that note, tell us where people can find out more about the workshop that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so the workshop I'm teaching on a platform called vitality-society.com. My next webinar, it's a 4-part webinar series. It's called The Paradox of Time in Retirement. It starts next week, Tuesday. It's from 7 to 8 p.m. But any events that I'm doing a whole bunch of events here locally in Ohio. If you want to go to my website, it's forwardlifecoaching.com. Not backward, but forward, where we want to go with our life. If you have any location where you're looking for a speaker or a workshop facilitator, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to fly or drive to where you are to do a workshop or a weekend retreat. And of course, I would love to work with any of you on this call as your one-on-one coach. It's an exciting process. So.
And don't forget her book. It's really an excellent book. It's really an excellent book. Anja, thank you so very much for your wisdom and for your enthusiasm and for your insights.
Thank you so much, Marian, for including me in this, for the opportunity to share my thoughts and ideas on this. I'm with you. I want to change the world for all encores.
We are together on that for sure.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.